Good, all great. How about you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a long
Yeah,
day
good.
of information, but yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Good to see you. All right. Should I get started?
Yeah,
All right. Okay. Hi and namaste. My name is Biraj Shrestha and I'm from Nepal. I'm actually a longtime volunteer for Save the Frogs and have been working at the forefront of amphibian conservation issues in Nepal since 2013 because amphibians often make the most sexy headlines when things come to species decline or extinctions. And at the same time, amphibians are also off the conservation radar in some parts of the world, including Nepal, because people do not want to see amphibians as wild animals since they live in close proximity to humans. And also because amphibians are often perceived as cold, slimy, spooky, and creepy creatures, and by no means cuddly. So that has resulted in additional repulsion and intentional killings. So I've been trying to promote frog conservation awareness in Nepal and trying to improve the perception of people to our loving amphibians so that would ultimately help amphibians to thrive better. Anyway, welcome to the 12th annual Save the Frogs Day and the third summit, which is going virtual. But before I begin my presentation, I just wanted to be sure that all of you are staying home, staying indoors, and practicing social distancing. So, yeah, I think I should share my slide. Can you see it? See my slide?
got it.
Okay. So my presentation today is all photo based because I didn't want to overload with the text, and I think it will keep you interested throughout my session. So this is basically me with short hair, and the reason I got into saving frogs is not because they made some of the most popular headlines, but because I loved frogs since a very young age, and I also had special memories with frogs during my childhood. We had a puddle in my backyard where there were like an army of frogs hanging out and playing, and I used to feed little insects to those frogs, and watching those frogs struggling for their meal was like really funny, or even it made me happy at that time. And also we had open spaces nearby our home when during the monsoon they were filled with water, and during the rainy nights there were like huge rumbling croaks of frogs, croaks coming from all directions, which was like pleasant and music to my ears. So it was like acted as a lullaby to my bedtime. Anyways, so moving ahead, let me give you a quick introduction of Nepal. So Nepal is a small landlocked country located in South Asia and sandwiched between two giant nations, India and China. Nepal is famous for its scenic beauty of mountains and Himalayas, glaciers, rivers, streams, and also we have like more than 6,000 rivers flowing, feeding from the glacial melts, and waterfalls, high altitude lakes, where amphibians love to hang out. And these are some of the amphibians, frogs that I studied during my stay in Nepal. So most of them are from Manaslu Conservation Area, where I spent almost 4 or 5 years working with them. And two of them are from the high altitude lake, also called Rara Lake frogs. So it all started. So this picture was from Resources Himalaya Foundation Environmental Graduates in Himalaya, where it all started. I mean, celebrating the Save the Frogs Day. So right after my first master's degree in environmental science, I was kind of looking for a job, and luckily, I got one right after my final examinations, and it was I think it was during April. Sorry, it was on March, and I came to know about Save the Frogs website and Dr. Kerry Krieger. I was really impressed with the Save the Frogs website because it had like so much information about frogs, amphibians, especially outreach materials, where I was like really interested too. And I then wrote back, and then I wrote to Kerry, and he replied back, and I expressed my intention of celebrating the first annual Save the Frogs Day. in 2013. And also I figured out that there was a Save the Frogs, sorry, there was a nominal grant for celebrating Save the Frogs Day, and Kerry encouraged me to apply for it. I applied, and luckily I was able to get the grant. And we received $400 at that time, which was still a big, huge money for a one-day event. And then we geared up for our first annual Save the Frogs Day. We gathered our volunteers, we prepared our plan, we designed merge, and then we planned an event targeted to students as well as university graduates. And this was the photo from the first Save the Frogs Day junior art competition. Oops, what happened? Oh yeah. And the next session was from the first symposium, and there were like people coming, and the whole auditorium was filled. And later after the event, my boss, she was really happy because there were like huge flock of people that came to the Resources Himalaya Foundation auditorium, and it happened after a long time. So I knew that, yeah, it went like a smash hit at the time, because people had very less idea on frogs and especially conservation. So everyone was like so thrilled to hear about the frog facts, frog research, and conservation measures. And my tenure got ended at Resources Himalaya Foundation. So I was again looking for a job. And luckily, I found a placement at another organization called Friends of Nature, where I worked as a program officer for Green Schools Project, so working with school students, where the mission was to prepare future community green leaders. And in 2014, we planned for another Save the Frogs Day event. But at the time, my boss from Friends of Nature, he gave me a very interesting piece of advice. He said to hold a dissemination workshop with media friends, media people, so that the frog conservation message would go out to a larger audience. And we did that, and the outcome was pretty splendid. And also during that time, I had the pleasure of designing a course content to motivate or even engage students about learning about amphibians. So we did a frogging trip, and we took the students to a nearby stream where they learned how to catch the frog for the first time in their life. And when they hold a frog for the first time in their life, everything was like changing, you know. I could read in their faces, they were like glowing. They had like really amazing experience and smile in their face. And this kind of connection is like really helpful to for the development of a future conservation leader. And in 2015, I again came back to Resources Himalaya Foundation and then organized the third Save the Frogs Day. But actually, we use the same banner, so it reads like second dissemination workshop there. Anyways, after my tenure ended in Friends of Nature, I was jobless, and I had plenty of time to think about my career. And then I focused on the grave threats to frogs in Nepal. So then this issue clicked my mind, which is actually the hunting of paha. So paha are stream-dwelling frogs in high mountains where people hunt them down for consumption and for medicinal use. And they were like really unchecked hunting and really overexploitation of frogs in high mountains, which I really wanted to work upon. So then I designed a project, and luckily got funded from the Ruford Foundation. And then we climbed up to the mountains of Mount Manaslu, where I discovered that people even consume these dried eggs of frogs in the belief that it helps them to cure their impotency. And frog meats as their local delicacy. And then we held the Save the Frogs Day at the premises of the Manaslu Conservation Area Office with local community and conservation area staff and local conservation practitioners. We also organized a Save the Frogs junior art competition with kids, but this time we did it over the stones. And look at the paintings. I mean, they're like really beautiful. isn't it? So then we also had a fun-filled frog activity, frog race with the local community. So in a way, it was like pretty interesting event to capture the attention of people from all the segments of the community. And then I hold school awareness campaigns in nearly all of the schools in Manaslu, trying to search for this frog and also equally trying to raise awareness about this species, which is a Liebig's Ba frog, one of the most widely hunted frogs in the mountains of Nepal. And after the first round of fieldwork, we again came to Manaslu for a second round of fieldwork, and it was in September. And let me tell you that Manaslu is one of the most fragile landscapes in Nepal, and also because of the 2015 disastrous earthquake, the mountains were pretty unstable, and even frogs. And becoming a frog biologist is not an easy job because they live in very challenging locations and on and inaccessible places. There are like rock falls, landslides on the way, and you can see the trail which runs through the landslide. And I really had a bitter experience, so I'm going to share this with you. So in September 2016, we geared up for the second round of field work. We reached to a place called Tatopani, and just before we reaching the Tatopani, there was a huge rainfall, and it was all wet all over. But as soon as we reached Tatopani, we met a group of Spanish trekkers, and they were also pretty excited to with their journey, mountaineering. And we were accompanying with them. We were walking with them, and suddenly, as we crossed Tatopani, there was a huge landslide that happened in front of us. And the bitter part was that those Spanish trekkers were trapped under the landslide, and the incident almost killed like 4 to 5 people, and nearly all of them were injured. It was really a disastrous moment. And luckily, I and my other team members, we survived because we stopped by Tatopani for tea break. But unfortunately, our friends, some of them got killed. So it was a really frustrating moment at the time. I was traumatized for weeks after weeks. And yeah. And after returning back to the city, I had to ink this in the memory of all those great people who lost their lives during that time. So by that means, I want to say that being an amphibian biologist is not an easy job. It's actually more dangerous, and you need to be very cautious about your field works and do not take it as some lightweight matters. And then again, in 2017, we had to resume our work. And so we came back much more prepared. We had developed the conservation outreach materials this time, especially in local language, and did community empowerment. We held amphibian conservation dissemination workshop with local communities, and also created amphibian conservation groups. And people were really receptive to the message we're trying to deliver because they are the ones who are the custodians of their biological resources, and they also have been perceiving the changes, the decline of Baha or amphibians from their communities. So they were like really receptive to what we were trying to deliver, especially the conservation measures that would help to protect amphibians. And after that, I thought of doing more outreach work. So I started writing my amphibian related feelings in my own blog, which is still active, I guess. And I also have a website, www.birajshrestha.com, if you want to give a quick look at it. And then on our return, I gave a radio interview and presented, or even shared my work, amphibian conservation work, from the Manaslu conservation area. And then we got featured in the local newspapers. I got interviewed about our work, and the next news at the right hand side says amphibian conservation group has been created for the first time, which was like really which really made me happy because amphibians were getting headlines even in Nepal. And then more frog talks when I got back to capital Kathmandu. And again, in 2017, I got to go back to my office at Resources Himalaya Foundation, and it was time for another Save the Frogs Day event. So we gathered much more ideas. We gathered ideas from Save the Frogs website. We gathered students. We gathered students, school kids, and local conservation practitioners, and we did this, a huge frog mural art, which is really interesting. And it's a really huge painting. I think it's still hanging out in my office at Resources Himalaya somewhere. And you can see the frog bake sale. We did this. I saw a couple of activities like this in the Save the Frogs website. So by that, I mean to say that, Save the Frogs website is a really great platform for people who want to devote their life for amphibian conservation, or even, scale some of the good take-home messages from there. And we had frog merch tabling, frog exhibition stalls, and I was giving a keynote speech at the time with a bunch of people from university, local conservation organizations, and the full set of people. And after a few months of celebrating Save the Frogs Day, I was fortunate enough to be awarded the Future Leader of Amphibian Conservation title, which I got while attending Amphibian Conservation Research Symposium at University of Kent, Canterbury, UK. And you can look at the amphibian loving people community, which is quite big. And along with me, 3 of my other friends were awarded with the title of Future Leader Amphibian Conservation. So it was a really great moment for us to create my networking and also know each other, learn from each other's ideas, which is really crucial to help get going. And after I got back, I showcased my work at one of the international conferences in Kathmandu, which is the 10th Asia for Animals conference. And in the same year, I was lucky enough to get another project at Muhammad bin Zayed Species Conservation Fund. So I was trying to fill the data gaps of data deficient species, one of the endemic frogs from high altitude lakes of Nepal, which is called a Rara Lake frog. And we're trying to extract DNA information from the frog, and we're still in the phase of writing paper about it. So more dissemination. Oops, what happened? Oh, sorry. And this was the glimpse of the field work from Rara Lake, one of the high altitude lakes in Nepal, around 3,000 meters above the sea level. And then I got back to the office, and again, I wrote an article in the op-ed in one of the popular newspapers. And since the Frogs Day was approaching closer, I thought of addressing the other grave threat to amphibians in Nepal, which is dissection of frogs in anatomy classes at high schools. And we prepared this poster with a clear and pretty direct slogan that frogs have made it through 4 mass extinctions, not just to end up in dissection classes. Well, that holds true because frogs are here in this planet much way longer than us before, and we have no rights to eliminate them to serve our purpose. So I was like really fighting tooth and nails with all these colleges and all these +2 high school colleges at the time. And during our interviews, a few of the teachers and even students felt guilty about, wasting frogs in their lives just for learning one single lesson in anatomy, and that is completely futile. because we already have lots of substitutes like 3D models, dummies, and also virtual dissection software. So during the Save the Frogs Day in 2018, we organized a workshop about against the dissection practice in Kathmandu. So we invited people from the government, especially deputy head from the Curriculum Development Center, and made him understand about how dissection has been contributing in the decline of frogs. And yeah, he seemed pretty convinced at that time, and he said like it is high time that we should go with the substitutes instead of killing live specimens. Oh, and yeah, we also prepared a few other outreach materials like this conservation booklet, which happens to be the first amphibian conservation booklet in Nepal, and more posters in local language, which says that an average people kill or even hunt 50 to 100 frogs at one take. And also even if a female lays hundreds of eggs, only a few of them could make it to the adulthood. So if you collect 50 or 100 adult frogs at one time, then you can think about how fast the amphibians will be wiped out of your environment. So we're trying to stress over that matter. And again, I was lucky to get another project in Bhojpur district, eastern part of Nepal, trying to work over the paha hunting and conservation issues in Nepal, and doing more outreach work with the community, with the school kids. And then, spoiler. And yeah, and after that, I had applied for a program in UC Santa Cruz, California. And this was such a fantastic program, the Coastal Science and Policy, where they prepare the rising conservation leaders with multidisciplinary approach. And we're learning like science, social science, economics, policy, governance, communication, and on top, we're learning how to do it right. So it was like the best thing that ever happened. So I came to California and met Dr. Crary Krieger after working with him since so many years. So it was like really, a dream come true even to meet him in person. And by this, I want to end my presentation with this beautiful quote from Dr. Jane Goodal. So the least I can do is speak out for those who cannot speak for themselves. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Biraj.
Thank you. I hope that was real quick.
Yeah, you've got 6 minutes, so let's see what kind of questions.
Okay. Sure.
So that people can find your stuff up in the Save the Frogs Academy Nepal course. And looks like Guru Raj